Hi everybody, I'm Zilla Blitz and welcome to the September monthly channel update. The last one of the summer. I thought for something different I would go outside to do this update, and it's not raining, which is really unusual for this one. If you're not familiar with what these videos are, this is kind of a 20-minute ramble where we talk about various things associated with the channel. I talk about what games I've played over the past month, what new historical and board games have arrived over the past month. We have a special topic every month. This month's topic is Desert Island Games. Asked a lot of you as part of the giveaway contest entry to say, what game would you take to a desert island if you could only take one game and play it for the rest of your life? Some really interesting answers. We'll talk about that at the end of the video. And also, we'll be giving away our $50 store credit to Noble Knight Games, who is one of the sponsors of this channel and the sponsor of this video in particular. And if you're not familiar with them, they are a retailer in Wisconsin, and I got a chance to visit them over August and take a tour of the place. If you can get to Wisconsin and see the place, it's absolutely amazing. The word that always gets described for the warehouse where they hold all their games is like the scene from Indiana Jones where they put the ark there at the end. The warehouse is just massive. You could just lock me in there for like 10 years, feed me pizza every few hours, and I think I would live a perfectly happy rest of my life. One thing that I did want to mention related to Noble Knight Games that I wasn't aware of as of the trip to the site there, I always thought you had to bring your used games there to sell them to them, because they buy used games and they sell used games around the world. But they have also a mail order buy system. So you can send them an email, tell them what games you've got, tell them what condition they're in. They'll send you an offer and they send you shipping labels. So they pay for the shipping, and then you put your games in a box, send them off, and they give you money or store credit for them. And it's super easy. So if you have a bunch of games that are lying around and you're looking to clear out some space and make your spouse happy and things like that, this might be something that you want to check into. I'll put links down below. And be sure to stick around at the end of the video. We're going to give away the $50 store credit to everybody who entered into the contest in the early part of August. As always, I like to start these monthly updates with just kind of a quick overview of how things went with the channel. August was a pretty good month. 11 videos published, and the number of views was roughly about the same as last month in July. Started out the month really good, but then I had 2 work trips in the back end of August for some side work that I've been doing. And as always, those are fun to do, but with work, it's like a 3-day trip, but you lose the 2 days before and then the 2 days after to kind of prepare and then to sort things out after you come back. So I always feel like they take a lot more time than I expect. And that kind of slowed things down in the back half of August. And still in that quest for 100,000 monthly views, maybe September. In August, it ended up with 87,500, but we were on pace for 100,000 halfway through the month, but then the work trips kind of knocked it sideways. The good thing is no work travel in the month of September, or I think October, just one family trip that's coming up in the early part of October. So I'm hopeful that maybe September, October could finally cross that 100,000 view mark after we split the channel. I'd hit it before when I had all of my content on one channel. But now that I have the board gaming and historical gaming content on one channel and split the PC strategy gaming and the simulation content onto the second channel, this channel has still been slowly building back up to the peak that it had before. Put the 2 channels together and it's well over 100,000 views, but separately, it's still kind of growing back up to that amount there. So yeah, good month. In the month of August, I was really happy considering the travel to publish out 11 videos, hoping to get better than that in the month of September. Shelf of Shame Challenge update. I've got some news and it's somewhat good news. And I'm also curious, how is your Shelf of Shame challenge going? We talked about it in February. I know a bunch of people said they were going to jump on and try something similar and listed some games and things like that. Post an update down in the comments below. I'd be curious to hear how it's going. I need some support. I'm not giving up yet. And some very positive signs in the month of August. I promised new green boxes beside my head. And in case, just to kind of show what's going on behind me, on the very far left-hand side, we can see that top left corner on the spreadsheet is a Most Fearful Sacrifice. And then green boxes going across here shows that it's filled all the way over to 100% and it's complete. So 2 games complete. That is Pax Pamir and then the Most Fearful Sacrifice. But the new green boxes go for Undaunted Normandy. Got a place to play this head-to-head with Andy and Mike from Solo Battles down in Wisconsin when we were down there at Noble Knight Games. played a game there. And since then, I've been looking at the solitaire rules. So I'm going to fire up a solitaire game. I think I can knock this one off in the next week or so. And then I might shift on to, not sure, I haven't really thought about what's going to be after that, but probably Paths of Glory, which is down here in the bottom part of it. So these are the games left to play. Fire in the Lake, Enemy Action Ardennes, Empire of the Sun, RAF Battle of Britain, D-Day at Omaha Beach. I need to finish. I've played it a bit, but I want to get to the point where I come closer to beating it. Paths of Glory, and then Holland, 1944. Panzer North Africa is an extra credit game. That might be a little bit ambitious. But how's your Shelf of Shame challenge going? This is somewhat, even though it's been a rough last 3 months, I'm confident that I'm going to make it. There's going to be Undaunted Normandy is going to be done by the next month, and probably Paths of Glory. We're getting on the horse and we're doing this. With the monthly update, I always like to take a moment to thank the Patreon sponsors of the channel. I know a lot of you have been with me for more than a year or two now, since way back when the channel was much, much smaller. And I appreciate all the support. The money that comes in for the Patreon goes to equipment and gear to buy for the channel. And I appreciate all of the support. Special thanks to new members, Facundo Estevez, Charles Fields, and David Siskin, who joined up since the last update. And in news on the Patreon, finally, Patreon itself, I've never really found to be a good place for having conversations. People just aren't really used to checking there, so it's really hard to have a conversation. Many more people seem to be on Discord, and I've talked about creating a Discord for the paid Patreon members as well, and the paid Patreon membership Discord is launching today or tomorrow. So that'll be a feature of the Patreon membership where we can kind of arrange games, talk about the channel, talk about other kinds of random things as well. So I look forward to launching that. It's all set to go. Just want this video to go up and then I'll launch it. So it should go up Tuesday, Wednesday of this week. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to try it for 4 months. So September, October, November, December, see how it goes, see how it works and stuff like that, and make a final decision on it. But I'm hopeful it gives Patreon members a chance to have some conversations, for us to set up some games to play together and to just chat about stuff, channel related, historical gaming related, simulation gaming, PC gaming, whatever we want to talk about on that Patreon. So if you want to check out the Patreon, there's a link down below. Support is always greatly appreciated. I want to talk a little bit now about stuff I played, and I'm convinced I know there's like 3 or 4 more games that I've played that I'm not going to mention, right? I'm curious, do people track the games they play? Do you use Board Game Geek's app to track it? I started in January and I was doing really well for like 3 months, and then I kind of fell off, and then I started again in August, but now I kind of fall off and things like that. So really have to probably stay more diligent to that, because I know I'm missing games on this list, because I know there's 3 or 4 more, but for the love of me, I can't think of what they are. But let's go through a few and talk a little bit about what I played. And again, part of it, those work trips knocked out a good chunk of the last 2 weeks of August there. So I feel like this would be longer had that not happened. But Undaunted, mentioned that, which was really, I liked, so this is like a backhanded praise, right? I liked it a lot more than I thought I would. Which sounds really awkward, right? It doesn't sound like the greatest praise. And nothing personal against Undaunted. When I had seen it, I'd seen the pieces, and I had, for whatever reason, just read a little bit about it and things like that. I thought it was going to be more abstract and less deep and subtle than it was. And it really surprised me. It was, there is some abstractness to it. It's very beginner wargamer, kind of wargame adjacent, combat related type of game that fits in that niche between, a full historical game and a board game. So for sure it's there. But I expected the gameplay to be more abstract, and to a degree it is. But what I really, really found fascinating is all of the different subtleties and strategies that you can use in the game. You can try to mess up your opponent's deck. You can build up your own deck. You can play right away for kind of strong moves, or you can kind of build up the strength of your force. You can try to concentrate on objectives or destroying the enemy. And building up your own cards as you go through. There's just so many different layers of subtleties of tactics. And I'm really only scratching the surface now with the beginning scenarios, right? So I think as you get into like North Africa and reinforcements, where there's vehicles and other things like that, and then you get into Undaunted Stalingrad, where you have that campaign system. We played this. We played this down again in Noble Knight Games down in Wisconsin. And all three of us got to the end and said, wow, this was way different than we expected it coming from a historical gamer perspective. We all really liked it. Even Mike from Solo Battles was like, I got to get Undaunted Stalingrad. And he went over to the Noble Knight Games desk and they had just sold out the last one that day. So yeah, I'm really high on, that sounded really bad. I'm not really high. I'm really excited about Undaunted and Undaunted series and things and the new one, Undaunted Callisto, right? Callisto, one of those two coming up about space, taking the Undaunted series into the sci-fi realm. What a great idea. So yeah, I'm sky high on this. Is a really fun game. And I think it's a great game to bring people into the hobby with too. So look for more thoughts and observations on that game. So I'm rambling now, but it was good. Another one, Mike from Solo Pub Battles and I played 1812. The Vuka Sims game about Napoleon's fateful march, the attack on Moscow, the campaign on Moscow where they lost hundreds of thousands of troops and just this devastating campaign where disease and weather and starvation, all this stuff basically wiped out Napoleon's army. And we played kind of a learning game for that. Really, really good. We want to play it again. It is a kind of a longer game, I think. Even the shorter scenarios take a couple hours, 2-3 hours, I think, to get through. So there's some meat and some heft to it, but it really does, I think, a marvelous job of capturing. I don't want to offer unequivocal praise to it yet because we played a learning game and we really liked it. So we want to dig in more and things like that. And I want to dig in more. But it was a really fun game to play. I really like how the game models that kind of the attrition of the elements, if you would, that affected both armies, but in particular, Napoleon's army. Speaking of which, I meant to mention this at the beginning. I didn't think I was going to be able to go to San Diego Historical Games Conference in San Diego in November, but I worked it out. We had a little bit of financial surprise with our daughter's college tuition and kind of in panic mode. But we sorted it out. And so I was able to figure out how to get there in November. So I'm going. And if you are going to be there, 1812 is a game I would love to play there. It's a 2-player game. A shorter scenario probably makes more sense because it's still going to take 3 hours. But I'd love to play it again. So let me know if you're going and you're going to be there. Other games, Raiders of the Deep started a solo campaign with that. I've been wanting to do a submarine campaign again on the channel for the longest time. 3 missions are up now. I put the 3rd mission up today. Mission 4 I'm working on now. So much fun to play one of those solitaire submarine games. I just adore those games and the story and the narrative they spawn and things and just that element of the game. So I'm really excited for that and kind of get back to those games. So another thing as an aside, I almost said and stuff like that. So everybody has little phrases they add in. When I have no words to say, I say stuff like that. And someone put a comment in a video a couple of weeks ago, said that I obviously noticed that I use it all the time. So I'm trying to reduce the use of stuff like that and things like that. See if I can succeed. Another game I played, Lords of Heaven from Phalanx. This is a prototype that I had played 4-player solo, and then 2-player solo. Really like the 4-player elements, both the solo and the 4-player. 2-player, I think, needs a little refinement, but the game still is kind of in development, if you would. I've put up thoughts and gameplay videos and stuff like that. I think there's 4 videos on the channel now. And so if you want to check out more, there's videos there. Really, really, and kind of fascinated by the 4-player experience, both with 4 players and then also solitaire. And I'm wondering, there was a comment on the latest impressions video that I put up. I wonder what playing with 2 players with 4 factions would be like too. So that's something I'd like to explore. But really fun game. I've really enjoyed my time with that one. As always, I've managed to get in a game or two of Obsession for non-historical gaming content, and then played Wormspan again, which was really fun. I'm not sure which I like better, Wingspan or Wormspan. I could talk a little bit more in depth on that, but I won't at the moment because I'm kind of rambling on. Solitaire game I played, 1942 War in the Pacific. I've yet to beat it. I played it three times now. Still haven't beaten it, but I don't think it's as hard to beat. It's not super hard to beat. I just haven't gotten there yet. You do need some die rolls to go your way, and there are some strategies you kind of have to nail down. I'm convinced I can win the war in the Pacific. I just haven't done it yet, but that's really fun. It takes 15 minutes to play. It's a quick game. It fits in a small box. You can travel with it. It's really fun. And then some more 85 Afghanistan. I'm going to be putting up some impressions on gameplay with that. That's from Flying Pig Games, and it's tactical, fast-playing tactical combat game of the Squad Battles series. And then I know there's been 3 or 4 more games that I've played, but for whatever reason, I didn't track them on Board Game Geek. And let me know if you have a system for tracking your games other than Board Game Geek, because for whatever reason, I apparently can't do that consistently. All right, on to what's new and in the house. A relatively modest amount of games over the last 5 weeks or so. Today, this one arrived. Alan Eagle's Corvette Command from War Diary Publications. In this game, you take charge of a corvette. You're hunting U-boats and trying to keep transports safe in World War II, in the early days of World War II. It's got a full campaign game in it. My understanding is this was a former print and play game that's now been taken to this full production value. It's very economically priced too. I think it's $40 at the moment on War Diary Publications. So an aggressively, I mean, that's pretty modest for a war game, right? War games tend to be more expensive than that. Really nice counter set and rule set and kind of map inside too. I'll be doing a couple of videos on this one. One will be an overview of it, and then I'm going to show a mission of gameplay as well. They'll be coming up on the channel fairly soon. And another game that came in just 2 days ago, I've been waiting for this one for a long time. This goes back to when I did the Bulge Off in the winter. The Last Gamble from Compass Games and designed by Danny Parker. Now, when I did the Bulge Off in the winter, a bunch of people suggested checking out Danny Parker's game by the same name, The Last Gamble. There was an earlier version or even 2 versions that were done a long time ago. And as I was looking at that, it was really hard to find that game, and it wasn't cheap. And it was expensive. And then in doing the research of that, I found out that this game was coming out. So I said, okay, I'm not going to spend a lot of money for a game that's going to have a brand new version coming out in less than a year. So I waited. So this was always felt like the game to me that was missing from the Bulge Off conversation as for the best Battle of the Bulge game. So I'm really happy that this one's come in. This is a review copy of the game. So I'll be taking a look at this one on the channel. It is heavy. And I've looked through some of the historical documentation. I think one thing that's really impressed with me that I've not seen done to this degree before is the amount of historical documentation. There's an entire book really of historical documentation, but more than kind of designer notes and historical comments on the battle, it's really a long and winding conversation about how the historical elements occurred and then how they are modeled and why they are modeled that way in the game. So it's a fascinating look as I've been scanning through it. It just came on Saturday. So I've only spent like half an hour with it, kind of reading as I've been eating lunch or dinner or something like that. And it's just really fascinating to read how the historical elements of the battle have been modeled in the game. So I'm really looking forward to kind of exploring this one, pulling it apart and getting it to the table. It is a complex game, 7 out of 10. On the complexity scale, and then it goes up to a 9 if you add in some of the other elements. But a huge, epic look at the Battle of the Bulge. Really excited to kind of dig in more on that one. Another new and in the house, Shiloh, the First Day, designed by Steve Carey, published by Revolution Games. Volume 11 in their Blind Sword series on the Civil War. This is a big game for the Blind Sword series, and it covers, as you would expect, the Battle of Shiloh on the kind of the very pivotal first day that really decided the outcome of the battle. 2 big maps. So this is the largest game in the Blind Sword series so far. Really fun system. I got a chance to play the first scenario last year at the San Diego Historical Games Conference with Steve Carey, the designer. I just had a really fun time playing that. Really fun system. There is a first look video up on the channel now for this one, but I'm excited to explore more scenarios with that. The Blind Sword system, so playable, so fun, and now with 11 games, it kind of makes the learning easy. You can pick it up, 70% of the core rules. You add on the scenario rules, and off you go. One that I forgot to mention in last month that came in, but it was just I forgot to talk about it. I, Napoleon, designed by Ted Racer, solitaire game about Napoleon. As you can see, embarrassingly, it's still in the shrink. It's been a busy past 5 weeks with travel and things like that, but really excited about this one. Kind of a lifestyle. We've talked about it on the channel before too. Kind of the life of Napoleon. You can go anywhere from an epic failure to, all kinds of alternative historical pathways that his career and life can take in this game as you manage your forces and the political nuances of his life. So I'm excited to try that one out. I'm not sure yet with the amount of games that are on the list to play. That one's going, I hope it doesn't get on the shelf of shame because I really want to play that one. It connects to one other thing that I want to talk about maybe next month on the monthly update too. We'll see how it goes. Then lastly, in Kalk and Gold, this was a game, this also in Shrink Art. This just came about the Battle of Kalk and Gold. This was a game I did some videos on with the prototype earlier. This is the second game using kind of that freezing inferno system from Princeps Games. So a really fun, playable game that plays fast around a battle that you don't usually see done. And there's videos on the channel with the prototype. It's always fun to get the final version in and then play that, because prototypes are usually fun because they're new and fresh, but they're usually prototypes. And then when you get the final version, you're like, oh, okay, I see how everything comes together now. And the components are just nicer as well. So that's it. That's it, I guess. 5 games in now for a new one in the house. There might be 1 or 2 I'm missing, but if there is, I'll talk about them next month. So now let's go on to our question of the month, Desert Island Wargames. And the premise of the question was to enter into the contest for the drawing we'll do in a little bit. You're getting sent to a desert island. You can only bring 1 game. You have to play it for the rest of your life. What game do you bring? Now, if I had really thought about this, I would have probably set some more context, right? And a bunch of people mentioned this in their comments and in their answers, right? Because the question was, am I going to have people to play games with there? Am I going to be by myself? Because that changes the answer a lot, right? You're not going to play, if you're only going to be playing solitaire, you'll probably bring a very different game than if you can bring 3 of your best historical gaming friends with you. That's going to change the answer quite a bit too. And then the other question was, can you bring the expansions that go to a game, right? And someone joked, it was in there somewhere that said, yeah, if it's like if it's Advanced Squad Leader, you're going to need like a second boat to take the person because there's going to be so much stuff. So, and we didn't really qualify that either. So I've kind of intentionally left those open just to kind of see where people go with it. But I think we can really categorize games into the answers into 2 types. A lot of people have what I would call kind of comfort games. And these are the games that, for whatever reason, they're not necessarily what I would think of as a desert island game when I was thinking of the question, because I would think deep, lots of scenarios, tons of depth, and you can create different variations. You can build your own scenarios, lots of variety. So you're never going to be kind of playing the same version. You can always be playing something new, even though you've only got 1 box, right? Like a tactical combat system, a lot of those got mentioned. We'll talk about those momentarily. That's kind of what I was thinking, right? Because if you've got a tactical combat system, not only do you have all the scenarios that are in the box, but you can spawn your own scenarios so easily with those that you've really got kind of endless variety in gameplay. But a lot of people went the other way with the question, which was what I would call their comfort game. You know, one person mentioned like Blitzkrieg, you know, which there's really not a ton of variety with Blitzkrieg, the old Avalon Hill game. But I think a lot of us have these 1 games that even though it plays the same way, you can go back to it and play it just over and over and over, because the variety of how the game unfolds is so different each time. And so they're kind of interesting to see people's answers from those angles, you know, where some people were sharing a game that I really wouldn't consider to have a lot of depth, but for whatever reason, that's the game a person would bring because it's like coming home to a game. And no matter how many times you play it, you can just play it again. But I wanted to share some answers because I thought there were some really fascinating answers here. A number of people mentioned Go and chess. And I assume that means you'd be able to take somebody with you, because I don't think Solitaire Go and Solitaire Chess would really entertain people for that long. But that was a really good game. That's one of those games, again, the subtlety of gameplay expands in so many directions. It's the lifetime game, obviously, right? Because it is so many different directions you go to it. Let's see, what else do we have in here? I want to save the biggest one for last, which surprised me. Of course, a number of people, as I mentioned, mentioning combat tactical systems. ASL, Advanced Squad Leader, a lot of people mentioning that one. Not as many as I had thought. I thought that would be the number 1 choice. Because when I think of lifestyle games, I think of Advanced Squad Leader. But surprisingly, it wasn't the most common answer. And I didn't do a mathematical analysis of this or anything like that. I was kind of eyeballing them through there and kind of tallying them up in a couple of cases. Another tactical combat system, Lock and Load's tactical system, got a lot of votes, people picking particular modules or the entire system within there. Old School Tactical got another one. And again, I think those tactical systems would be really good choices, because not only do you have the scenarios in the box, you can make your own scenarios, as I kind of mentioned before. Funny one, Campaign for North Africa. 2 or 3 of you mentioned that. Instead of finally get a chance to play it. I'm not sure the rest of your life would be enough time to play the Campaign for North Africa, but that one made me laugh. So thanks for the people that put that one in there. A good number of people putting in War in the Pacific, either the Victory Games version or the GMT version. Another great choice, you know, massive monster game with a lot of scenarios. And that's kind of what I was thinking what would be some choices that people would kind of bring along there? Let's see. A bunch of people mentioning coin games like Fire in the Lake, Cuba Libre, Red Dust Rebellion, which isn't out yet, but people are pretty excited about that one, Coin in Space. A lot of people kind of going to tactical combat systems, and this actually makes sense when you think about it, right? If people are thinking of solitaire tactical combat systems, a lot more people than I expected mentioning the Combat and Combat 2 games from Compass Games. That came up like a half dozen or more times with people saying, I could play that game forever. And that I have those, and they're on the shelf of shame. It makes me really want to explore that system, because I think that sound, especially Combat 2 has added in like a campaign game. So I could imagine those would be games you could play for a long time. But that one, I wasn't expecting that. A bunch of people mentioning. The Panzer series from GMT Games, a bunch of people mentioning that. Fits in with tactical, tank, again, spawning your own scenarios and things. So that would be a one that I think makes a lot of sense. Silent War and the submarine games and the kind of their variations like Western Front Ace came up a lot. The Hunters in particular came up a lot. I wouldn't originally have thought of that one, but I can see why. It's kind of a combination of depth, go, and chess, because every campaign always plays out differently. And yet it has a good bit of depth too, and you get that comfort feel to it. So that one makes a lot of sense. Some people going very thematic and picking Robinson Crusoe, the solitaire game where you try to survive on a desert island. I thought that was clever, very clever. I think 2 or 3 people mentioned that one. Valiant Defense solitaire series, so like Guadalcanal, the upcoming one, Pavlov's House, Soldiers and Postmen's Uniforms and things. Those games coming up. Great campaigns of the American Civil War came up. A lot fewer monster games got mentioned than I thought. That surprised me a little bit. The Multiman Publishing's like D-Day, Greatest Day, that series got mentioned a couple of times too. And I thought this was another good one too, especially if you're thinking solitaire. Danverson Games Leader Series, a number of those got mentioned. In particular, B-17 Flying Fortress, along with a few other ones there. So that too, I think, when you look at the content in those boxes, a ton of depth. There's so many scenarios. And again, the ability to kind of design your own and riff off of those is pretty strong. But I'm saving the number one answer for last. This one surprised me. It didn't really surprise me, but if you asked me beforehand, I wouldn't have picked this one as the one that would win. Combat Commander, not by far, it had the most answers. And people saying Combat Commander Pacific would be perfect, because not only have you got the game that's got tremendous depth with a lot of scenarios and the ability to spawn your own scenarios, but it's on a Pacific island too, so you're kind of connecting the themes there. But Combat Commander, by far, a lot of people just saying really good depth, tons of scenarios, great expansions to play with. If you could bring the expansions, there's more gameplay, of course. That one popped up the most of all the answers. So thank you. I think that's all the ones that I would want. A lot of individuals or ones that came up a couple of times, but those are the big ones that I wanted to mention. Thank you, everybody, one person mentioned one that I think might be mine, Men of Iron Tri-Pack, where you've got the 3 Men of Iron games in one game. So much gameplay. I might be tempted for that one. Again, it's tactical enough that you can create your own scenarios. It's got thousands of counters. It's kind of a monster game with tons. I think that would be a good choice too. But there you have it. Thank you, everybody, who offered in answers. I really liked reading through the comments. I know I finally caught up today and answered the last unanswered comment. I try to answer every comment on the channel. And when we do one like that, where there's all of a sudden 200 comments, it does take a while to go through and read and answer them. So finally caught up this afternoon. Thanks to everybody who posted. I really enjoyed reading your answers, especially when people kind of talk a little bit about their thoughts on why they picked a particular game. Really fun for me to read and gave me a lot of different ideas for things that we can do with the channel, games that I can play personally. And if you're looking for something to read or a game that's like got a ton of value, you might actually enjoy going back and kind of scanning through the comments from that video, which is really interesting. And now that we're done talking about desert island games, let's give away $50 in Noble Knight store credit to someone who added their desert island game with the hashtag desert island on that video. Close to 200 people entering the contest this month, and I've got them all entered in above. I'm going to push the start button. It's going to filter through everybody, and we will get a winner. Good luck to this month. If you don't win this month, there's going to be another upcoming Wargames video coming to the channel within a week. So look for that. There'll be another contest coming up soon. Good luck, everyone. Here we go. And we get at B Fortner 7, who picked up the winner here. So congratulations. He said, Desert Island, this is a very hard choice, but assuming I'm alone, oh, we got our ad here. We don't want that. Assuming I'm alone to pick The Hunters by Gregory Smith. Congratulations to B. Fortner7. Please reach out in the comment down below and let me know how I can get in touch with you, and then we'll get it sorted out. If you actually could send me an email, if you look on the channel, the main channel page, my email address is kind of hidden there on the channel information. So spammers can't get it, but you can get it and then send me an email with your information and we will get you your $50 store credit to Noble Knight Games. So once again, we've frittered away a half an hour talking about historical games and historical board gaming and other board gaming related matters. Thank you as always for your time. Our time is our most precious resource, and I appreciate when you spend it here together watching and talking about historical board games. As always, thank you for your likes and subscriptions, Patreon memberships, all the support that you've given the channel over the more than 3 years now that we've been doing this. It feels like it just started yesterday. It's hard to realize that it's been a long time, but it's been a short time too. So I appreciate all your support. That one last thing, if you're looking, kind of wondering what's coming up in the month of September, I'm excited to have no travel. So a bunch, there are 33 projects in my project list. Okay, it's a lot of projects, so I can't possibly mention them all. I haven't forgotten anything. They're all tracked there. Some of these have been there for a few months now, but they will get done. There's not been anyone I've abandoned yet. Some immediate ones coming up. There's going to be an overview of Phantom Fury from Nuts Publishing, an upcoming game in October from them, as well as Italia 1917-1918 from Nuts Publishing. Corvette Command I want to take a look at. Traces of Hubris is when I'm trying to get to the table for from Buka Sims. And then Wargame Design Studios, Panzer Battles North Africa is one I've been playing a little bit now on PC. It's time to really bring that and do a series with that for PC. Hex Encounters, Wargaming coming up. Statecraft from Do It Games, I hope to get to the channel soon. And then Louisburg 1758 from Worthington Publishing. Among other things, 85 Graveyard of Empires. I've got a video half done for that too. And then we'll continue with our Raiders of the Deep series. So those things and many, many more coming up on the channel. If you're looking for something else to watch immediately, with the Men of Iron Tri-Pack that I mentioned before, we did a series on the Agincourt battle a long time ago when the channel was new, but it was a really fun one to make. You might enjoy watching that. There's a link up there if you want to check it out. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks. Bye.